to another episode of Writings from the Hills. And my name is Lori, and today I'm reading a selection from Asylum on the Hill. This is a history of a healing landscape by Katherine Ziff. A special thanks to Ohio University Press for permitting us to use this book for our program. As you might have guessed, if you know very much about our area, the asylum is actually the Athens Asylum, where a lot of local people and in Appalachian section of Ohio were taken for healing for psychological and other issues. And the asylum has been used in many ways since its first inception. And I'm going to read from chapter 1. It is entitled The Moral Treatment Experiment. A magnificent sight overlooking the Hocking Valley. This is a quote that begins the chapter. On a spring day in 1865, Dr. William Parker Johnson returned home to Athens, Ohio from the Civil War. He had been mustered out from Camp Dennison in Columbus, Ohio. 3 weeks earlier, General Robert E. Lee had surrendered the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia to Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant. Dr. Johnson, known to friends and family as Park, was a country doctor. He had enlisted in the 18th Ohio Volunteer Infantry as a physician and had finished his war career as a head of 2 post hospitals in Tennessee, where he found a calling as an organizer and administrator. He returned to Athens, transformed from the country doctor to experienced hospital administrator by his work caring for the ill and wounded of the Kentucky and Tennessee battlefields. Politics. Men who survived the Civil War returned home to resume their lives. Some were shattered in body or mind, and others had gained new leadership skills and recognition for their heroic achievements. The political careers of the Ohio-born presidents, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, Benjamin Harrison, and William McKinley were launched by their service as Civil War officers. Dr. Johnson used his war experience and newly developed administrative skills to advance the care of those with mental illness in Ohio by orchestrating the founding of the Ohio's 5th state mental hospital, the Athens Lunatic Asylum. Post-Civil War Ohio was of national significance in the 19th century public mental health care movement sweeping the nation. The Ohio Lunatic Asylum, opened in the state's capital of Columbus in 1838, was the first public asylum west of the Allegheny Mountains. Between 1838 and 1898, Ohio opened 7 public asylums to provide mental health care for the state's large and rapidly urbanizing population. All 7 were devoted to the care based on some of the newest humanitarian models of mental health care. Some of Ohio's asylum physicians during this period attained national stature, publishing and providing leadership in the newly forming field of American psychiatry. And Ohio, in the last quarter of the 19th century, was an American political and economic powerhouse. Ohio sent 5 presidents to the White House between 1877 and 1901. Entrepreneurs such as Dr. B.F. Goodrich, Edward Libby, and John D. Rockefeller established small businesses in Ohio that grew into giant industries. Ohio's natural resources fueled the nation's steel, natural gas, oil, and clay pipe industries, while the state's railways and water transports on the Lake Erie and on the Ohio River provided a dense network of transportation between the east and the rapidly expanding markets of the West. In contrast to the urban centers of Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo, Dayton, and Cleveland, Athens remained even today a small village in a remote rural corner of Ohio. Established in 1804 by the General Assembly of Ohio as the home for Ohio University, Athens was surveyed in 1795 by the Ohio Company, whose associates were among those who settled the Midwestern wilderness under the Ordinance of the Northwest Territory, 1787. The village's 1870 population of 1,700 persons and its isolated location in the steep forested foothills at the edge of the Appalachian Mountains made it an extraordinary choice for the location of Ohio's 5th state asylum. Dr. Johnson's first year as a war doctor was difficult. He was often depressed and in despair about alleviating the human misery created by war. As he wrote to his wife Julia in Athens from Camp Jefferson at Bacon Creek, Kentucky, in June 1861, "My shoulders are pretty broad, and I guess I can go on a while, though I hope our regiment will not be continue long in its distressed condition. I thought yesterday we were about through with measles, but I found several new cases today. The chances for making sick men comfortable are miserable, and I dread the consequences very much. We have lost but one case yet. We have on hand now a number of very sick, and several will have to die, I fear. People have little idea of the horrors of war. It is not easy to be on the battlefield. However, I do not think it best to distress your tender feelings with any particulars, and I presume it is not best for you to mention anything about the facts I have stated, as so many of the Athens people have friends here. When will this cursed war be at an end?" But Dr. Johnson persisted and later wrote Julia of his success in organizing his work. His letters suggested that his interest in mental health care may have been a result of his observation of soldiers in distress, for no apparent physical reason, and his puzzlement as how to treat them in the hospitals. It is a matter of astonishment how much one man can do when he goes at it with a will. I would not have believed a month since that it was possible for one, me, to do what I have done for the past 2 or 3 months. It will have at least one good effect in learning me to be ready to do the right thing at the right time. I have my labor so systematized that I have a time for each and only aim to discharge it at just the proper time. I have got the men learned so that there is a time set apart for each particular entry. For instance, all who are complaining order in camp must make their complaints known between the hours of light and 10 in the morning. One of my great perplexities is what to do with the men who claim to be sick and yet present no outward symptoms of disease. Despite a massive workload, diarrhea, and occasional bouts of depression, Dr. Johnson came to appreciate his work. From Tullahoma, Tennessee, he wrote that while he worried constantly about his family and missed the comforts at home, he preferred the regular life of an army physician to working in the hills of the Appalachian Ohio as a country doctor. Well, you can read more of Dr. Johnson's letters to his wife during the Civil War, as well as his experience as a doctor and administrator at the asylum in Ohio. As well, you can also see some accountings of some of the patients that were there and some of the experiences and treatments they received. Again, this is Asylum on the Hill, History of a Healing Landscape by Katherine Ziff. And again, a special thanks to Ohio University Press for giving us permission to use this book. If you would like to read this book, this copy is actually located in our genealogy and local history department in our Arlington branch, and it is always available there to be read. It cannot be checked out, however. You can go to our catalog at www.briggslibrary.com. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. Thank you for coming, and see you next week.